Thinking of winning the lotto jackpot? Well, there is an easy way. Combo Play. Choose 4 numbers from 1 to 36. That's a combo 4 at a cost of $64. Match any 4 of the 5 numbers and win the lotto jackpot. There's Combo 6, where you purchase 6 numbers for only $12. Match any 5 of the 6 lotto numbers and hit the jackpot. How about Combo 7? That's a purchase of 7 lotto numbers for $42. Match any 5 of the 7 numbers and you will win the jackpot. There are also Combo 3, Combo 8 and Combo 9 lotto plays. Visit the NLA headquarters in Pauls Avenue or WhatsApp 495-6886 for more details. Lotto, you have to be in it to win it. Boom, boom.
No place like home because we need you. I really need you. Because we need you. I really need you. Come home to me. Come home to me. Come home to me. Don't not promise from today. I go through like I never done before. Like I never won. Like I never won before. Just to show you what's up. You know what I'm saying? Cause I will never let you down again.
Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Roundtable Talk. It's a very special edition of Roundtable Talk, and joining me at the Roundtable this evening, Dr. Wilfred Lane, Bert Walker, and of course Lennox Bowman. We will be talking about music. We'll also be talking a bit about Ashley Betty Maxman, who we sadly lost a few weeks ago and who will be laid to rest tomorrow. Of course, like the 3 people around the round table this evening, he was a founding member of Exodus. Of course, Exodus is a legendary institution in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is no more. We'll talk about that. We'll also begin by talking about the early beginnings of the band Exodus. How, where, and how did Exodus come about?
Okay, good evening, Teresa and the group, and St. Vincent, Grenadines, and the diaspora. Exodus actually started at Sign Hill in the very early in the early parts of the year of 1974 with Jerome Neverson. Ashley Betty Maxman joined in 3rd, and Wilfred Dr. Lane came in at 4th. And we were very young lads. We really had the excitement of hearing the big bands and wanted to emulate some of those guys, and we decided we'd get started. We got started with a pretty local foundation in terms of equipment. We fabricated some of it ourselves. I remember Jerome making the first bass box, and I making the first hi-hat cymbals. And we moved down to the Olive Hotel, where we got started. Jerome made amplifiers from abandoned electronic equipment and so on. And there we had the start.
What was the real inspiration behind the formation of Exodus?
So I got involved when I lived at San Hill with Dougie Truckman. Unfortunately, we lost him. And Adonis John, we used to play what we call quattro. And we continued. We'd get to various homes and we'd do some of that. And across the street from where I live was a gentleman, Steve McMaster. His brother had a bass guitar in his abandoned in his garage. And one afternoon he came across, saw me doing this stuff, and said, man, my brother have a bass guitar. You want to have it? He brought it over. And Jerome passed and saw me with it and decided, okay, this guy seemed to have some ideas. We sat chatted once. Jerome went down to his workshop at W.J. Abbott, and he came back with a locally made condensed transistor radio formed into an amplifier. And that's what we started with. I had a locally made bass guitar, not a guitar, locally made bass amp with a gift of a guitar. We made a drum set. BT used his kick, the late BT, used his cadet boot to start kicking the drums. And that's where we started.
What were the other bands that were in existence around that time that would have really inspired or encouraged you guys?
Well, at that time, there were a number of really accomplished bands. There was Latinaires, there was Climax, there was Mastermind, and those bands were very talented groups with very masterly musicians, and we as youngsters looked up to them and would, go to the fetes, the night morning, the dances, etc. So we were always hoping and looking longingly that if we can do something like that. And I remember in my own case, I learned to play the guitar in 1974 when I was studying for O-levels. So in between, there was a guitar at my home that belonged to a good family friend, Lauren Charles, and I started to learn to play the guitar. So soon after that, when we went back to school, and cadets BT said, "Man, P-Dux," which is my nickname, he said, "Man, you want to join a band? We have a group of guys down." And so when I went down to Olive Hotel, I thought I was going to be in a situation where they had, an actual band, but there were, as Bert pointed out, there were a number of improvised instruments, and but that's how we started. But from that humble beginning, we added equipment. Some of the early members in the band, I remember Ken Wiseman, who was associated with the band, asked me, "P-Dux, boy, all you guys have a band. I could sing, Wiseman joined the band, and then there was a rhythm guitarist at the time known as Eldon John. Eldon Jack, sorry. We used to call him Jack from town, affectionately. And from that nucleus, we had a keyboard player, Parky Israel, joined the group. And then at the time, Vincent, who was Jerome's brother, was working in St. Lucia. And we were looking forward to his coming because he had some experience singing in groups in St. Lucia. So he eventually joined the group. So that was the original starting point. Now, I started out playing rhythm guitar, and Bert was the bass player. And then, we had some rearrangements, and people had to be out of town, etc. So we had, Bert couldn't always make it to practices. So Jerome took the responsibility of playing the bass guitar. But then he quickly realized that I had an affinity for the instrument, so he passed that on to me. And that was how we started. And Bert, when he came back into the band, because he was away for a while, we had a nucleus. So Bert started to play some bass, play percussion, and that's how we progressed from that moment. And we got better and better and better and better. And we started playing actively out in the rural areas, in the countryside, and got pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
So, Lennox, I know you would have come on board later on, but where were you in the early beginnings? Still at grammar school?
Yes,
trying to...
I believe I will best qualify not as a founding member, but as a founding fan of the band. Because I remember, I think what really made the journey of Exodus so very important and very interesting to me was the fact that, because I live Kingston Park, so I have to pass Olive's Hotel, up and down. So I was peep inside, because at that time, that's the closest I could get to any band. And I saw a group of musicians who, frankly speaking, they became they came a long way. Because at that start, you had guys there who learning the instruments themselves. But the commitment and passion to what they were doing and the vision that I felt the passion I felt coming through made me understand the vision years after. And to me, that was just exciting. And then to have become part of them, well, through my brother first, Ricky, who joined, but always having this excitement around the band and its development. So to have been a part of the journey where Exodus undoubtedly had become the party band most sought after during a particular period. It was, to me, it was like you are the biggest fan.
What kind of support did you guys get in those very early days?
Essentially, Jerome, as a mastermind, he orchestrated many of the activities and equipment. So he invested some money into purchasing some, used equipment in the first stage, which sort of built the excitement a little further. Now we were having not locally made stuff or handmade stuff, we were actually having a drum set. And we were purchasing an amplifier from Climax or Volume 5 from Mastermind. And we built a perfect sound system from having collected from various bands. And that really drove us further into providing music and loving as a brotherhood among us. We just played music, we just had to play music. We never stopped playing music. We played in every entertainment space that was available at that time.
You mentioned brotherhood. We'll talk some more about that brotherhood because I think that is one of the outstanding features of the band. Did you also get mentorship from those older bands like the Latonaise and the Climaxes and the Mastermind? Was any kind of mentorship provided for you guys?
Well, I would say that because we quickly became their competitors. So there was no direct mentorship per se. But I must say some of the most seasoned musicians like Plumey, for example, who was a famous bass man in St. Vincent, he was always very open and willing to have us use his equipment. Some of the other established bass players were much more hung on to the equipment much more jealously. Plumey was always willing to, and he had very good equipment, and he was always willing to sort of have us use his equipment and sort of, sometimes I think to his detriment, but he was always, I would say he, of all the seasoned guy, he stands out because he was never a selfish person. He was always someone who encouraged you, and from the very beginning when we were aspiring to be as good and recognized as he was always encouraging. And so I would say yes, he was probably, I think, the one that stands out in my mind.
And also, we developed excellent relationships with Asterix, with Volume 5 Climax. And like Doc has said, I think they were called Revolution, perhaps, at that time.
They came later, yes.
Okay, right. But we developed excellent relationships and we often played together. I remember the first time we went to a Coty Club. We had to pay the admission fee to get to play at the Coty Club.
The band members?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ashley, in fact, was sort of prohibiting the activity, but he gave way, and then everybody, Jerome, said, well, let's go, we're going to pay the admission. And I think the late Stevie Fraser did offer to return. I don't know if we took the refund, but at the end of the performance, he sealed the deal. We were in a Coty Club like for a lifetime, competed with all of the other bands.
And there was some other critical place too. I remember we had a good relationship with Dougie, the Freitas.
Absolutely.
And I remember many nights when I, as the #1 fan, had to leave the Fed to go and get a jack card here and thing and Dougie. And I'm not talking about like 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, and I'm talking about like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, he was so accommodating of us. And people, we had also some really good relations with some of the DJs. So when we played alongside people like the Disco Connection and so on, Duckwell and Cap and so on. And those were the days when I think there used to be a kind of unified and togetherness in the entertainment industry.
Okay, we'll take our first break and come right back. And remember, you too can be a part of the program by contacting us and sending your comments, questions, or texts via WhatsApp or via YouTube or via our WhatsApp telephone number. We'll be right back.
Vinci, get ready! As Unto Calypso 10 makes Calypso great again. It's all going down at the Russell's Auditorium for 3 nights. Thursday, June 1st, June 8th, and the preliminaries on June the 15th. Starting time 8:30 p.m. Come and witness one of the greatest battle royals in Calypso with acts such as Exposer, Marvel, Mashi, Mansik, Roots Garden, Ninja, Abija, Reality, Tompai, Patches, Koja, Da Vinci, The Truth, Ras, Simple, Ipa, Zion I, and Azara. Admission only $20 with music from Next Level with Brass. Who's gonna be the last man standing and crown the ultimate Calypso king?
Unto take over, we bang in the area. Come back home because we need you. I really need you. Because we need you. I really need you. Ain't got no place like home because we need you. I really need you. Because we need you. I really need you. Come home to me. Come home to me. Come home to me. Don't no promise from today. I go show like I never show you play. Like I never play. Like I never won before. Just to show you what's up. You know what I'm saying? Boom! 'Cause I will never let you down again.
Welcome back. Exodus had a special kind of evolution. I think one of the things we were talking backstage was the fact that you always had a quality group of men, dedicated, committed. What was responsible for this?
If I may say, when the original group, after the original group got settled, the first major turnover we had was following our tour to Canada and to Toronto, Canada and New York in 1980. Before that, the band was in the process of producing an album, which the original plans were thwarted by the Soufre erupting in 1979. Mm-hmm. And then we had rehearsed the music with horn players. But for one reason or the other, they couldn't make it when we finally did go to the studio. And the first group of musicians made this North American tour. And I believe 6 members didn't return.
We lost the first 2 in Toronto.
So we knew before we left that our keyboard player, Mike Crichton, would be staying in Canada because his fiancée was there. And when we got to New York, and some of the other members, found their life partners there and stayed. And so when we came back, at the time I was in the middle of Teachers College, and I had a decision to make because I had a lot of opportunities, offers to stay, but I chose to come back. So did Bert, Ashley, BT, and Vincent came back, and then we had to replace them with new members, but we were very fortunate. We had a lot of caliber players. Ian Glord joined the group. Then we had a new keyboard player in Glord and other and many rotations of horn players, usually recruited from the police cadets, and so we continued and always maintained the character of the band. So we were lucky in that sense that we had good replacements.
One of the important aspects too is that the core band had developed a particular sound quality, not just in its musicianship, but actually producing excellent sound. And like Freddie said, automatically those guys may have been studying us, and they presented themselves and they came with the right credentials, and it made the job a little easier, and we were able to continue playing because of the quality and readiness to move ahead.
I think Exodus went through a process of, it was a steep learning curve, not just in terms of the musical proficiency of the members, but even in its management, its whole approach to, the way we try to build an instrumentation. I believe, took our music on the road more than any other band in St. Vincent ever. And that in itself endeared us not just to the locals, but it reached overseas. And we also have to be grateful for those overseas who played a part in us organizing tours for us, everybody, it wasn't a lot of money at that time, making a lot of money, but these guys were into it. And as Redux and Bert already referred to, the quality of the succession of players over the years, maybe part of that quality was nurtured and encouraged by the leadership that the band had at the time. It was serious leadership. When you go into a band room, and we had meetings, and I've sat in so many of them, and you listen to Redux and Bert and BT and Vincent speak, young players listened, So I think all of that Exodus over the years have become a serious training ground for musicians themselves. But apart from being a training ground for musicians, I think the leadership and leaders were born out of the band. And I think a lot of the leadership that they grew with was partly emulation of what was done in the band and what was working for the band.
I think we take pride when we see other bands succeed. For example, Willis Williams, he was our keyboard player. He played with us for a while. Godfrey Dublin, he was our guitar player and singer. These guys went on to join Touch. To join Brian, who was nurtured in Asterix. And they went on to do great things with Touch. But we take a sense of satisfaction because they take a little bit of what was inculcated in them in their sojourn with us for 2-3 years as members of our band, and took it to Touch. And everybody knows Touch is a very accomplished band in their own right.
Absolutely.
So we had that kind of vibe, back in the day, when we had so many active bands. The first thing first time I realized things had changed was that after I had migrated away and came back to St. Vincent in 1999, at the time I remember I was ill. I had a thyroid issue that transformed me from what people remember me looking like back in the day. I remember traveling out to Aquatic Club Carnival Monday in the day. I couldn't even go to town. I was so sick, but I just had to go to Aquatic Carnival Monday night. And when I drove all the way out there, when I got my Valentine corner, I said, what's happening here? Is it Monday night? The place was closed on Carnival Monday night, 1999. And that was the first time I realized that something had changed radically in St. Vincent. Because that was unthinkable. I mean, I remember when the carnival changed to 10 days in June, every single night we played at Haddon Hotel. It was ram-packed full. Asterix played at Aquatic Club, it was ram-packed full. Another band played at Crow's Nest, it was ram-packed full. And people would hop from one venue to the other. There was so much activity going on.
Bearing in mind, these are not full-time musicians. I mean, I used to...
And we're going to talk about that.
I used to actually don't know how Ricky used to make it. I got pulled in a lot with Ricky, just basically trying to keep his company. But there was a time when Exodus was playing like 4 times a week. And 2 of the other 3 nights you're practicing. Because these guys, Vincent and BT and Bert, and you can't come into a band room and not get it right going on. We used to do all kind of miraculous things. I used to be going out in the band with Ricky on the night, and we used to pick up CP. And a hit song come out today. And Ricky learned 2 verses and a chorus or part of the song. And CP, they working it out in the night, you know. And we head into the gig and we're going to play that song, you know. Because by that time, we had committed people who would, even before the band start playing, we'd go in a corner and say, listen, these are the chords, this and such, you know. And all of that was done, in my opinion, for the best reason was making our customers happy.
I like to also add that Black Sand had a guitar player who played with us before. His name was Michael Martindale. And he became one of the really great guitarists in town. And I know they're rehearsing to regroup as well. But Black Sand came just behind Touch Exodus, and they made a good name for themselves as well.
You mentioned that in 1999 when you visited, or when you came back home, things had changed. When do you think that change came, and why, in your opinion, did things change?
Well, I think around that era, we had some little conflicts. We weren't able to have a block. We weren't free to play loud music sometimes at certain clubs. And I think it had a sort of negative impact overall. We also had lots of musicians migrating, and people started going to the cruise ship industry and so on. And we were sort of relaxed in a phase of mediocrity where the DJs stepped in and played, and people would just go and listen to the DJs, and the bands had to sort of relax at that time. And I think that was one of the fundamental changes that impacted negatively on live entertainment in particular. Because gone are the days when you could have 2 and 3 fets at the same time. Well, perhaps sometimes seasonal, but prior to that, you could always go to 1 or 2 or 3 places and have real clean entertainment. Even in Carnival, I've noticed that we could no longer have a semi-final, not a semi-final, sorry, a semi-formal setting where seniors like me could go and relax and have a good dance and have a conversation. I think I've looked in on that scenario a bit, and that is missing. Although we have all these young, energetic, fancy clubs and different types of fetes and so on, I think it also impacted negatively because I couldn't really get up and say I'm going to a ball, a dance with my wife, and we're going to be having a good party. We lost that, and I think it's contributed negatively towards live entertainment.
Yeah, I just want to make the point as well that I get kind of emotional when I'm talking about Exodus, because I look at Exodus as an institution that has really contribute significantly. If Calypsonians know their history in St. Vincent and they make an effort to learn it, they will figure very quickly that yes, you might have some DPTs and this one right in your schools, but the support Calypsonians got when they got in an Exodus band room was laudable and sometimes really, I mean, the kind of passion. These guys, and BT have to call his name. I used to describe BT as, I used to call him one more time. Because as much as the local Calypsonian came there and didn't leave better, and didn't leave with a better sound, a better song than they came with. Because an effort was made to make the song better. Both of them would tell him and go and write over that verse.
Absolutely. Or we would teach them how to,
Yes.
shorten a line and add a word or change some text. And we also had good support. Remember we had that earlier item. I remember we had the late Ellsworth Shakeen, who would be in the band room, Vidax, you remember? And the guys would be doing the startup sessions for Calypso. And he would sit in the back and he would start doing his charts. And then he would come out and he said, here you are, Freddie. And we passed these charts out. And everything just got converted into a crescendo of decent sound. And the guys were able to sing the song better. And that's an important point as well. Because I remember we used to train these guys even to hold the microphone. And by the time they got to the tent, the audience were able to interact with them on a one-on-one level. The audience would tell them, okay, you're going to go over to the next level, right? And so we had that camaraderie with the Calypsonians, working with them, of which BT was a major part, because when BT kicked that drum,
oh man,
I think it's important for people to know that the graduates,
yes,
correct,
exactly,
then started with Exodus.
and those were tents.
Those were
Good
days I
days.
used to live in the tents, yeah.
We had the radio
Graduates,
station,
Yeah.
would come down and do the recordings, and we'll go back to the studio and we'll sort of edit with Dougie Walker and those guys, Slater Stewart and those guys, Mackie.
yes,
And we were really excited.
Mall,
David Moore, exactly.
And these guys were really dedicated in
Yes.
terms of seeing the upliftment of the art form.
Okay, we'll take a second break. I'm getting that signal and we'll be right back.
SVG, get ready for the Queen of Calypso competition. Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. Come see reigning Calypso Queen, Chanel Mackenzie, defend her title against 10 other ladies. Fire Empress, Lil Bit, Nubian Empress, Lady D, Cleopatra, Sheena, Marvel, Collection, Samantha Martin, and Georgette Nanton, also known as Selena. Showtime, 8 p.m. at the Russell's Auditorium. Admission, only $20. 11 queens, 1 crown. SVG Queen of Calypso Competition 2023. This event is organized by the SVG Calypsonians Association.
Vinci, get ready! As Unto Calypso 10 makes Calypso great again. It's all going on at the Russell's Auditorium for 3 nights. Thursday, June 1st, June 8th, and the preliminaries on June the 15th. Starting time 8:30 p.m. Come and witness one of the greatest battle royals in Calypso with acts such as Exposer, Marvel, Mashi, Mansik, Roots Garden, Ninja, Abija, Reality, Tompai, Patches, Koja, Da Vinci, The Truth, Ras, Simple, Hyper, Zion I, and Azara. Admission only $20 with music from Next Level with Brass. Who's gonna be the last man standing and crown the ultimate Calypso king?
Until take over, we bang in the area.
Welcome back. What are your views on entertainment in St. Vincent and the Grenadines today as compared to your heyday? And I'd like to hear from all three of you in this respect.
I'll let Lennox go first. Lennox is probably more here than I am these days.
I don't know. Sometimes when I speak on this, I speak as somebody from my generation and my experiences of my generation. But I also think that I am enough into the business to speak of the now generation and the emerging generation. I think there was a time when I think artists did songs that they were committed to and felt like doing and was part of them, and that came out in the song. Their own uniqueness came out in the song. I think a lot of the artists now are doing songs that they think people would like them to do, or people would like to hear. So they are missing an opportunity in being themselves. Not all. So I think they're missing that opportunity. I think also in the period that we refer to before, where a lot of people left to go on the ships, and it became very expensive to take bands on tour, and the emergence of the DJs, and all credit to the DJs. This is nothing at all to take away from the DJs at all, because they have played and continue to play a very significant role in the music. But somehow the technology, I know they're not going to be happy with what I'm going to say, but I think the radio stations, and I think a lot of the announcers on the radio and the DJs on the radio, to me, need to be a little bit more aware of their role in pushing what we have. Because when a lot of the artists don't make money out of it, but hearing the song on the radio helps in their own furthering their creativity and keeping the passion alive and so on. And I always say to them, the same way you go passionately at the Jamaicans or the Trinidadians or wherever, spare some time for what we are trying to do in St. Vincent as Vincentians. In years gone by, we used to listen to all the other kind of music too, but we used to have a lot more Vincentian music. So when we go out, we can be proud when we hear them. I shouldn't be in a fit in New York or wherever I am, and everybody jumping up to all the music. And when Vincentian music comes along, when we know which one is good music, it feels like this is time for a drinks break. And it's not that our songs are in no way, our songs are most times are superior songs to some of the things we hear. So the promotion of it and the support of the music, I think a lot of the businesses need to take the musicians that we have, or the artists that we have, and support them. Every other country is developing an export strategy for culture, and this is one of the activities in the strategies for culture, so we need to promote it. So yeah, it has changed significantly, but you can't lay the reason, I don't want to use the word, but you can't lay the reason for the change at any one person. It takes a collective appreciation for understanding our product and our Vincentian. Listen, our music, there was a time when you hear our music, you know that's our music, you know. Yep. Exodus had a sound, Black Sand, Asterix, New Direction, Touch. Touch has done an amazing job in terms of creating a kind of sound for St. Vincent. And it is a struggle to even keep that sound going. Now we feel it's better to follow the trend. And so on.
I mean, even the New York-based Vincentian Calypsonians, they had a particular song, which in large part was because of Frankie McIntosh and the Vincentian musicians in the New York area. People like Elvis Rose. I mean, the soca beat that
Yes.
we come to appreciate as standard in calypso. This pop 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 beat that was
Good.
invented by Elvis Rose, Elvis and
Definitely.
Kiki Rose. People don't know that. You know, Vincentian musicians have always made a contribution. If you go back and listen to some of the old Winston So-So songs, some of the old Scorcher songs, you know, these songs had a different twist.
Camo, Tommy.
I mean, you know, they had a different, there was a particular vibe.
Magic Fox.
Culture Forbes, of course.
Incidentally, he has an excellent song.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Excellent song.
I just think we need to take more pride in what we have, because Vincentian music has always done well. I mean, the Kevin Little song that was creeping, you wouldn't believe it. The first time I heard that song, I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania now, and the first time I heard that song was at the neighbor's holiday party in front of me. I was sitting in my deck on the back porch, and I was hearing this song. I said, "He sounds like a Vinci." Me and my wife were listening to that song, and then I subsequently came to know that that was a Vincentian song, because an Antiguan friend of mine came to me and said, "I have a Vincentian song I want you to hear." It was the same song. That was a couple of months later. People out there are appreciating what we are doing.
Absolutely.
But,
But
you
we're
know,
not.
Well, I had a very profound experience with that same song. I was in a New York City of predominantly Spanish people. I went into the store on a Saturday morning, and the song was playing in English. Yeah? And all of the patrons in the store were singing the song. I got goosebumps, serious. I was so excited and elated. I really just had to join them. So I asked one guy, you know, if he knew anything about the song. He's from Jamaica. I said, "No, man. That's our own St. Vincent and the Grenadines production. Kevin Little." And I think that song took some time before it really made serious ground. But I'm confident that it's still not over with
Well,
Kevin Little and
I
that
have a
song.
story too. My wife and I were in Moscow.
What?
And we were in a mall in Moscow, and we heard that song. And to me, I wasn't hearing right. I couldn't be hearing right, you know. And while we talk about that song, you talk about the excellent producers that we have in Adrian Bailey and Sherry Haynes and Barry and Fort. We have a lot of great producers, and I would wish sometimes, you know, that they continue to work and network with all the persons, all the entities which would make our music again rise to the top. I really think that in St. Vincent right now, and for quite a few years, our DJ, and I'm not knocking them, you know, I'm just asking them to be a little bit more aware of why is it important to support the artists and get some of the music out. This year I've been listening, and to be honest, I haven't heard. There are few radio stations that I believe are playing more than 50% of Vinci music even right now. And our carnival is just about
We
a
are,
month away.
we are into carnival. This is carnival
You
season.
know, it means these young artists, we have to encourage them, you know, just so much like what we used to do in the band room in Exodus. Call people and tell them, "Listen, I think you need to change this word. What about this phrasing?" and so on. In the same way, the media, they have a responsibility to encourage
Mentor.
these guys and,
Yeah.
and don't pull them down. You know, everybody starts somewhere, and some of these guys, it's not that the writing and the compositions, yeah, they might not always be spot on, but work with them and show them where and encourage them.
Yeah, I
And
remember
one of
one-
the ways to encourage them is
Sorry.
to play the music.
I remember one night, Ashley, we were here in 2017, and Ashley got called to go to a little studio. So he took Mike and myself. And essentially what was taking place is there was an engineer and a young lad singing a song. And he really needed help. So what we did is to pull back, brought him aside, and spoke with him gradually. And we actually got them to curtail the whole event because he was going to be there all night.
Yeah,
but BT said, you know, guys, I need your help. And we went together and we said, no, we're not going to do this. Let's give the guy his foundation first. Mike, BT, and myself. And I understand the guy turned out to be, you know, popular among the performers. But the Calypso and so on, not only Exodus was built on the shoulders of like the Becketts and the guys I remember.
Absolutely.
I remember going to a show, Laughter and Love, recently, and there was a break and the guy started playing a Beckett song and he was asked to cut it, but the audience will not have it. They had, oh, you were there, Lennox? No. Yeah. They had to replay the song. And the song was, I think, not even teaser, it was Gala Rush Me. And so people understood that these kinds of music produced by Vincentians are excellent productions. And the Beckett has a fantastic repertoire.
You know, I remember people like the professor, who was a great comedian in his own right, but also a very excellent Calypsonian, you know, and we always had talent there. We still do have a lot of talent there. We have, I mean, Razam, who was one of Exodus's vocalists. He has made some very classic, timeless songs. Take Me is going to be timeless 10 years from now. And that brings me back to the point that Lennox was making. You know, good music never gets old. When you listen to radio stations in North America and so on, you hear music from all periods, from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, on stations that still played topical music and the latest hits, but they always pay homage to the past.
I support you soundly.
Yeah.
I always, one of the persons I remember too is CP, even up to today. The work Carlton has done in that band room to help artists is phenomenal. And up to recently, Carlton used to be in the upstage band and so on, and I know he has a lot of things going on now for him, but he's such an important. Well, he's a teacher by profession.
Well, I was just going to make.
He's always looking for.
I was just going to make that point because he's first of all a teacher and a gifted, excellent teacher.
Absolutely.
We had the opportunity to be in Teachers College together, the same class, and that is one thing CPA always had, a gift of communicating an idea.
In my opinion, too, I think his entrance in the Calypso arena raised the bar.
Big time.
We'll take our final break, come back, talk about BT's role and contribution to music and the entertainment industry in general, and how it is that you guys in Exodus were always able to marry your personal careers with that of the music profession, yeah? Because I think that's one of the good things, one of the outstanding things where Exodus was concerned. We'll be right back.
Get ready! As Unto Calypso 10 makes Calypso great again. It's all going down at the Russell's Auditorium for 3 nights. Thursday, June 1st. June 8th and the preliminaries on June the 15th. Starting time 8:30 p.m. Come and witness one of the greatest battle royals in Calypso with acts such as Exposer, Marvel, Marshi, Mansik, Roots Garden, Ninja, Abija, Reality, Tompai, Patches, Koja, Da Vinci, The Truth, Ras, Simple, Ipa, Zion I, and Azara. Admission only $20 with music from Next Level with Brass. Who's gonna be the last man standing and crown the ultimate Calypso king?
SVG, get ready for the Queen of Calypso competition. Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. Come see reigning Calypso Queen, Chanel Mackenzie, defend her title against 10 other ladies. Fire Empress, Lil Bit, Nubian Empress, Lady D, Cleopatra, Sheena, Marvel, Collection, Samantha Martin, and Georgette Nanton, also known as Selena. Showtime, 8 p.m. at the Russell's Auditorium. Admission, only $20. 11 queens, 1 crown. SVG Queen of Calypso Competition 2023. This event is organized by the SVG Calypsonians Association.
Welcome back. Our friend and comrade Ashley Pichi Maxman succumbed to pancreatic cancer several weeks ago. And you guys have known him from beginning. What was his contribution, not only just to Exodus and music, but also to the entire entertainment landscape in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? And you can keep that up for now. Okay.
Well, Ashley, as we alluded to earlier, was one of the foundation members of Exodus. And but our friendship goes back way before that. We were in Scouts together, we were in the St. Vincent Cadet Corps together. And as a matter of fact, he came to be called BT because of your humble servant christening him as such. Back in the day when the St. Vincent Grammar School Cadets was expanding to become the St. Vincent Cadet Force, I remember BT's brother, Bernard, the original BT, Bernard BT, the original BT, was a much loved sergeant in cadets. And I remember BT coming up Thompson Home Road with his trademark bump, you know, bumping away. You know, anyone who knows BT know what I'm talking about. I say, look at this guy, he looks like a BT. And the name stuck. And but yes, BT was a passionate person, very opinionated, had strong views, and put his effort behind his views. You could always depend on BT as one of the members in the band to do the hard things. You know, being in a band is hard. People don't see the hard work that goes into setting up the band, taking down the band, moving the equipment, testing the song. Those are all the things that happens long before the audience comes into the room, and people sometimes get irritated if the song is slightly off. It takes a lot of effort to do that. BT was always the man. Even if he did not always, as the band got more established, we had younger guys, the roadies so-called, doing that, you know, who in their own right were good song professionals, doing that sort of work. BT would always be the one there, making sure everything was just right. So it takes a lot to, you know, his contributions are incalculable, really. you know.
If I may, I would like to speak to Ashley's performances or his contributions to the art form. Ashley was truly an icon. He was passionate about everything he did. He made sure everything in sound was perfect. I know he would get off the stage, get down, get around, make up the twist and came back and fixed it if he were not satisfied. So Ashley also received awards from the graduates Calypso tent. He also received an award from, I think it's the St. Vincent Grenadines Rotary Club, as in recognition for his contributions to culture and community services. And to get to that point took some doing. He was able to multitask, keep things in the band, keep things at his workplace and at his home. I remember we used to have our kids playing in the band room in the yard, in the beach at the Aquatic Club, and we had to be going out looking, back and forth. I remember one time we had an argument and the kids came up and wondered what was happening. They couldn't believe the same two people who were working together all the time. And we had this understanding. We would disagree, but we would agree. There was nothing that could come between us that kept us apart, out of mutual respect. And I think he carried that through his life in his music and his professional life. And Ashley was just a gifted person.
Ashley was passionate and he was extremely committed to anything that he put his mind to. And similar to the band itself, where you have talent and there is no discipline, there is bound to be failure. But I think Ashley himself was exemplary and in a way represented what we saw in the band itself. I remember one situation. We went to St. Lucia to play for St. Lucia Carnival.
I was there.
You were there, that's correct. The night before, that's true because your friend,
Yes.
yeah. The night before, in that stadium, we went to look at the band. When we were leaving, Ashley was leaving down the second tier of steps. Somebody dropped a bottle inadvertently from the top. It hit the railing, the wall railing that we were looking at. And it cut Bitty. It took 14 stitches, right above his wrist on his hand. We were already talking that, well, we can't play tomorrow. If there's no Bitty, those are not the days of drum machine and things. We needed Bitty. But Bitty was having none of it. Bitty was going to play. When Bitty turned one night and convinced everybody that he was going to play, I remember Bert said, Bitty, show. When Bert came back and said, Bitty say he going to play, and
he said the show must go on.
And I think we played that night for 2 or 3 hours. Music of the highest quality. And I look at Bitty's hand,
Bandaged up?
bandaged and bleeding.
Yep.
Wrapped in a t-shirt out of bandage, I think it was.
And I don't know if anything in music in all my experience ever struck me like that, But you see the discipline and the commitment he had and his thinking about the band. No, the band has to perform. The band has to perform this institution. We have to go and show the situation people what we can do. Because the other time we used to go down and play like at Green Parrot with Boo Hinkson and those guys, and we used to have fun. In terms of like the aspect of Bitty, yeah, Bitty would argue, he would argue, but I think what I gathered as a young person at that time listening to these guys is that, well, not too young, but listening to them is that Vidox differences, I recognize that it was differences of opinion which drove the progress that we were having and being able to resolve them. You know, BT was a clear case, and we were quite professional in it. You know, it's like the adage, you know, being professional is indispensable to doing a good job. And you know, I just figure that we have lost a great human being, someone who, in my opinion, has contributed significantly, not only as a musician, but BT was a man of his word. I can tell you what experiences with Flo or Cable and Wallace we worked with. Many times that I had a problem when I called BT, one thing I know, his credibility.
It's solved.
Solved.
Yeah, I think that story epitomizes the sort of person BT was. I mean, he dedicated and undaunted in the face of adversity, you know, and that's how I remember him, you know, as a good guy.
I think the art form would be a little sad without his presence. I think he mentored so many people, not just, you know, Calypsonians. He performed with several other groups. Mohammed Not, if you wanted a drummer and he had the time, he can come to Ashley. I think he did a good stint with Rage, the band Rage at one time. Ashley encouraged youngsters to study sound engineering, and many of them became successful. I could think of Ainsley Primus. He also went on to do tremendous work in the New York Calypso art form there, and he says that Ashley was his mentor for many, many years. Yeah. His career was built on Ashley's shoulders.
And Dougie, too, the keyboardist, the engineer.
Dougie Walker.
Dougie Walker.
Dougie Walker and Ashley had a fantastic arrangement. They came out of college together. They started a work relationship together. I think they got called to professional work together. One went to 705 and one went to Cable Wireless.
Yes, correct.
Well, we could go on, but our hour is up. To me, BT was a big brother, a friend, dependable, my confidant. We will all miss him so very much. Our condolences to the family, wife Debbie and all his children and the rest of the immediate family. Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. So happy to have you with us. My cousin Bert, and of course my other brother, Lennox Bowman. We'll see you again next week, Wednesday, for another edition of Roundtable Talk. Good evening.